Welcome everyone to another edition of Random Topics Thursdays with Gavin Reshon presents. Wherever you are, I hope you are blessed and do it safe. We have a special panel today joining us, of course, as always, our brother Shawn James. Shawn, of course, is the author of The Man Crisis. You've seen him, he's no stranger. And the gentleman in the middle is no stranger as well. He is Pastor Clenard Childress out of New Jersey. And y'all are practically neighbors, New Jersey, New York. So, yeah, yeah. So, shout out to both of these gentlemen. Shawn, thank you for joining in, and Pastor, thank you for joining.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, no problem, gentlemen. No problem at all. Of course, I think everybody. It was. Some people were taken aback by what happened on yesterday. Of course, with the protest, it started out as a protest at the Capitol, and then it turned into straight up. It seemed like anarchy and chaos by some of the riots that we saw that happened in the Capitol. I want to get each of your opinion on. Hold on, let me turn my camera on. All right, there we go. Good evening, guys. Again, I want to get your opinion on what we witnessed and what we saw with regards to what took place at the Capitol. It's being reported that there were over 68 arrests that have been made. 57 officers were injured during the pro-Trump, what they call the pro-Trump insurrection at the U.S. Capitol. And we also know that 4 people died as well. I have her name, don't have her name offhand with me, but apparently one woman who was a Air Force veteran and National Guard. She was involved in it, and she was shot and killed as a result of it. I know some others had died there. Pastor, what was going through your mind when you watched what took place yesterday?
Well, I didn't see it till after. Being a pastor, I was seeing a very good childhood friend who had a bad prognosis from the doctor. And so I got a chance to listen to it on the way up. But being that I do this and I'm quite very busy in the streets and have been studying the present protest by different anarchists and groups.
Oh, there we go.
Okay. You listen.
Sorry, I was playing that video as well, but go ahead, talk.
That's all right. The listeners need to know I had friends there at that march. Basically, they said all the way up to the time when it ended that it was peaceful, it was prayerful, there were songs being sung. As they started heading up, there was already a group ahead of them dressed in black. They had Trump gear on, but they all had black on. And so my friend said when he saw the tattoos and stuff, it said, oh, this ain't an evangelical group here, which was funny. And they actually breached. They actually went in, and it was planned. But here's my problem. I don't know who was counseling or talking to the Trump people who had the protests, which needs to happen. It needs to happen. But the simple fact of the matter is you couldn't anticipate that. You had white males going down in Minnesota yelling Black Lives Matters and busting up black businesses talking about we have a right to be angry. You have a right to be angry? Yes, you do. You don't have the right to break the windows of my great-grandfather's store that he worked hard through racist Minnesota in order just to have a business and able to thrive. But, the American public, because the media is complicit with the scam, none of these things are ever talked about, exposed. But I tell you, I forget the brother's name that plays on the Cleveland Cavaliers, I believe now. He used to play on the Knicks. He came outside his house, and there is a white male. Now, I don't see myself as racist, but I'm not stupid. Basically, I know what the tendencies are. Here's a white male vandalizing his car in the name of Black Lives Matter. Well, he told the police and told everybody he chased them down and beat them down to the ground. So this was the same thing. All the Trump rallies, all the gatherings, nothing like this ever happens unless it's another group confronting them. But and usually the Trump people, everybody knows that. That's why there wasn't enough police out there. But they should have anticipated that, because most of his rallies, every place he goes, there's no need for a heavy force. But the stakes were high yesterday. They should have expected this.
Well, I will add something. When you look at this video, though, Pastor, I'm looking at. I don't know if you've ever been. I take it you have been to Washington, D.C. before, because you're an activist.
Police are squabbling with protesters.
I have been to the Capitol and know how tight security is. The last time I was at the Capitol, let me mute it because it's out capping me right now. But where I've been to the Capitol, I know that security is usually tight. There's always a security presence that's there. And when I look at that video, I'm seeing police officers actually opening up the barricades to get to the Capitol. And I saw there were videos of them taking pictures, even with these so-called protesters inside the Capitol. We know and have seen the videos of them on the floor of the Congress. There's at some point, while you have a First Amendment right, and I think you'd agree this, to protest once they breach an area that they had no place being, and you start breaking windows, that's a whole nother get down.
Absolutely. It was all planned. And hopefully everybody finds out the immediate assessment by persons who are not politically charged or biased. In order for them to gotten in, someone had to let them in. Okay. Especially in the time it took for them to get in. Someone let them in. So this was all planned. It was all staged. But the thing about it is, if you bring in the military, which Washington, D.C. did, you put them around the most important spots or the most important iconic spots. Certainly, if you have the whole legislature there, they should not even have been able to even come close. The military should have been posted where they're supposed to have been, and even extra duty on guard. I mean, you're deciding the electorate, and there's so much contention and so much tension about it. I can't believe that they would even have been able to think they could get in. But they were already in position to get in as the march was heading their way.
Far Side, good evening, fellas. Just joining in. What are the topics we are talking about? Obviously, what is the number one trending topic right now is what's going on in D.C. Obviously, the riots that broke out inside the Capitol and what we've seen today. Also, we'll talk about these talks about removing Trump from the White House. There are calls from main Democratic leaders now thinking that Trump should step down or be removed out, impeached. Supposedly, Congresswoman Omar is drawing up papers, if I understood, for his impeachment. Shawn, let's get to you. Tell us what you think and your observation. And of course, if you want to do a plug-in, please do so.
Well, I don't think it's appropriate to do a plug-in just yet regarding one of my books. But right now, when I looked at that whole incident in Washington, I was kind of indifferent to it because I saw this coming over, I say, about 8 years ago when George Zimmerman got that pass from Barack Obama. And with that pass that George Zimmerman got from Barack Obama, we saw the rise of Donald Trump. And what we saw in that Washington yesterday was the culmination of, I believe, 8 to 9 years of buildup. We saw this build up over time. And these racists and white supremacists, they got emboldened once they saw George Zimmerman get that pass. And they just kept pushing boundaries. And then what we saw was the boundaries continuing to be pushed after Donald Trump ran for office on that platform. And once we had the COVID-19 pandemic and we had the lockdown, that further led to these people getting more and more open to getting more boundary, be able to feel free to get these boundaries pushed. So these people have been around for some time, and they have been emboldened over the last couple of years to keep pushing and pushing the boundaries. And what we saw yesterday was basically these people now feeling that they have a right to go out to and storm the White House. And they had some help.
The Capitol.
Well, not the White House, the Capitol, storm the Capitol. That's my mistake. But they felt they could storm the Capitol because they felt that they had won. They felt like they had nothing to lose because a lot of them have no jobs, no money, no resources. And they use that as a justification for doing this. And they also follow these conspiracy theories as related to the election. And two, they also felt like they could just do this because they had a lot of inside help in order to get into that Capitol building. I mean, what Tariq Nasheed has talked about for many years about these race soldiers, these people who have infiltrated our military, they have infiltrated our police departments, and it's clear they infiltrated the Capitol Police. And these are people who supported Donald Trump, and these were people who voted for Donald Trump in numbers. And when they organized this protest, they came and supported Donald Trump and these protesters, and they let them in. So often, if you compare it to what happened in the summer with Black Lives Matter, we had all of those National Guardsmen, we had all of those police officers out there, and in fact, we had police officers and National Guard clear the square so Donald Trump could take a picture in front of a church. But you have to ask the critical question: where were all those people? And the reason why those people weren't there is because they were told not to be there, and they were told to step aside because they were supporting those so-called protesters. I call them rioters and even insurrectionists. They were supporting those people, so they did the passive aggressive thing in staying home and letting those people take over the Capitol building. And this was all about sending a message to the people on the left that if you try to push us too far, this is what's going to happen. And it was a message being sent, because a lot of times with these white supremacists, they want to send a message to people, and that's what the Ku Klux Klan used to do with black people, with those lynchings and burning down people's businesses. They were trying to send a message to people that if you do certain things, this will happen. And this is what this whole insurrection was all about, sending a message that if you keep supporting these leftist policies, something's going to happen to you. And a lot of people think it's going to end with a Donald Trump concession, but no, it's not going to end. People don't understand how dangerous these groups have become, how emboldened they've become over the last couple of years. And they don't really understand that when you have people, again, in an economic situation where they have nothing to lose, you have a powder keg that is going to not only explode, and I've talked about this in a video I did called America on the Brink, it's going to go nuclear if we don't really do something to really deal with it.
Yeah, from all of this, now look at this. This guy, can y'all see this? This guy looks like he's missed the WWF about 30 years ago. The Warlock. It's my understanding that guy is, someone told me, I had a picture, I believe it was Tariq Nasheed that brought this up, that his father is a Supreme Court judge. This is another individual. I don't know who this is, but they're carrying firearms too. Some of them are carrying firearms.
Yeah, these individuals came for war.
Yeah. Now, I don't know which one this is. This is something else, but this was at a rally. I have to point this out to you, Reverend. I don't know exactly what happened, but whenever you see a woman being touched by a man, my blood boils. Whatever happened, you had this incident here. I don't know where this took place, but apparently this gentleman works for Toyota, and he's grabbing this woman as she's being pepper sprayed. in the face. This doesn't look like this happened on yesterday. But nevertheless, I saw Tariq Nasheed pointed out he actually got a response from Toyota because they identified this individual, Roy Ball, and he was apparently fired by Toyota. I can't.
All right. Well, basically, the same. We don't want to have two different measuring tools for any type of activism. That way we get played. Now, that rally, up until the time of dismissal, from what my understanding is from several people that were there, it was more like a prayer concert. They were praying and singing and all that. Now, you know, when you have 1.6 million people, you can't account for everybody. You showed a picture of somebody. I don't know who it is. You don't know who it is. But I if I knew way your program was going, I believe I was on another program. My anger was they should have anticipated this. When I do this, there's people that come and say they're for me, but they're not. I protested at the house of Joe Biden. I protested at the house of Phil Murphy. There was white and black there.
Yeah.
But this one particular person was yelling, screaming everything I was, but was not for us. He was there to be obnoxious. He was there to break the rules. So everyone would say Reverend Childress's demonstration was terroristic, or he's an anarchist or whatever. Now, I want this same type of scrutiny, though, with Black Lives Matter, Antifa.
Well,
wait. We need a discussion like this with demonstrations, and because let's be for real here. Most of the Trump, and believe me, I know there's white supremacists. I know what I do. But let's because they're basically also intermingled, or those with the ideology of anarchism are mingled in with those other protests. You turned over Frederick Douglass. You turned over. See that was.
Well, I have been critical of Black Lives Matter. Wait, stop. We have covered. Wait, stop.
No. Go ahead.
We have covered, and Shawn, you know this as well as I do, because Shawn has been on the show and he has done it as well. We have covered Black Lives Matter and their platform. What they stand for. I align with Black Lives Matter because I've had a chance to, if you look at their agenda and their platform, what they promote is, first off, they're anti-black male, they're anti-heterosexuality, and they promote a I would dare say it, a socialist Marxist agenda.
And Antifa? And what about Antifa?
Antifa, I've heard the same thing. I haven't done a video on them, if that's what you mean, but I've talked.
Okay, how do you perceive them? So it was crazy to me.
How I look at it right now is that you have there, like what you mentioned, the white boy that was knocking out the windows of the basketball player's car. I remember that story, but I remember
that. I can't think of his name right now, but
I remember this. I do remember watching the video of the man with the motorcycle helmet that was knocking out the windows of AutoZone, and people saying, "Wait a minute, that's a cop! That's a cop!" I don't get away from it. Everybody, that was an agent provocateur. You're gonna have those in your movements. They had them in the Black Panther Party. They've had them in the NAACP. SNCC. All of them. They always had informants and agent provocateurs. So
exactly.
So that's why I'm very cautious when I see, like, as of now, with aligning with some of those groups. I don't really align with them. I have nothing to do with them. I'm my own individual. Right. So,
well, that was wise because I pay attention to myself with the church. I align myself, and that could be dangerous, but you got to go. Yeah. And I align myself with the methodology of Dr. King. I see no reason at all to deviate from it. Here you have a group of Black pastors that brought the strongest nation in the world to the table to make the concessions they were asking for. And they did prayer meeting on Monday night. Then they did their planning. Selma to Montgomery, the reason why Martin wasn't there the first time was because his church demanded that he have communion that Sunday, because the Black Baptist pastor, if there's any Sunday you're going to be there, you got to be there on first Sunday. My point is, when I see anybody doing anything that's outside of that mindset, and I am a preacher, and I understand others may differ from me, but to be honest with you, the imams are more friendly with me than my own preachers, than my own Baptist preachers. I have more projects done with imams where we theologically do not agree, but that we agree on the subject matter. You know what I do with the Black genocide. They agree with me, and we engage, and they are respectful. They are disciplined. They don't take no nonsense, but it is certainly one where we can reflect and say we want a peaceful protest, and it's certainly something that our people is very disturbing to embrace the violence and embracing, saying, well, Martin's day is done, this is our day, and embrace the teachings that were taught. So I don't see most of the people, and I'm only being honest. If I thought if it was something else, I'm not kowtowing to any party or anybody's likes or dislikes. I try to go with truth. I haven't been hurt doing that. Most Trump rallies are peaceful and prayerful, most. And when there is confrontation, it has normally been provoked. Now, will I say that that's 100%? No, but
you can't say that.
But it's certainly not the percentage of violence and the percentage of anarchistic things that are done to basically, and I know this country has issues, but Martin didn't do that. He said, live out your creed. Hold these truths to be self-evident. Live out your creed. Don't throw out the baby with the bathwater. He had no problem with the Constitution or the Judeo-Christian ethic. So that's where I come from. I love everybody. I don't agree with the LGBT agenda, but I love my LGBT persons. Some call me a hater. Okay, all right. But my Bible told me I'm commanded to love you. It's not a suggestion. I'm commanded to love. And if I got an issue loving you, no matter what you're doing, I got to get closer to God.
Shawn, you have anything to add?
What was the question again?
I just asked, did you have anything else you want to add?
Not on that topic just yet.
As far as what happened and took place. Okay.
Not much I can say. I mean, it just showed us the truth about America. I'll just say that it just showed us that the truth about America, and it held the mirror up to Americans' face once more. Because when you look at that whole riot that was out there, I can't call it a protest. It was a riot because these people, they were showing us what America really is. I mean, Americans, they just don't want to see that truth regarding how racist America is, how white supremacist America is, and how we have a great divide in this country. And we really need to take a look in that mirror at this country, because we clearly have a divide, and this is a great rift that has been in this country, I say, ever since the inception of it. And most people, they're trying to just sweep it under the rug. And that's the other part of the American culture, is we like to sweep this under the rug, but we have to confront this if we're going to deal with it.
I agree all what he said, other than in characterizing the event as a riot. There was riotous acts by a small number of people that weren't with the group. I know they weren't, but even if you said they were, 1.6 million people rioting, my brother,
Yeah, well,
what you saw out there, if 1.6 million people had rioted, they would not have been able to quell it.
Yeah, but what do you call a? You can't call it a protest when you have people carrying Confederate flags and swastikas.
Okay.
I mean,
yeah. Well, here's the thing, Pastor. I have to say this, and I kind of agree with Shawn in the sense that while there may have not been people that had anything to do with what took place inside there, it certainly became a riot at that point when you have large.
As I said, at that point, it was over. He dismissed them. They were there for hours. And certainly it's only natural and nature for us to focus on that incident because it was something unquestionably we really need to search out. Whether there be a true investigation, I don't know. But
they already know who these people. I think they know who these people. They have to have known these people already.
I'm not saying it's possible. But now I can send to you my friend's video from the inside. Okay, and what they did, they took pictures of these people and then matched them up against pictures of protesters. It was Antifa Washington. They and like he said, a lot of them don't have jobs, they don't have money. This is how they make their money. And their faces are on their Twitter book as Antifa, but they got a Trump shirt on.
Okay.
I didn't know what the discussion was going to be on, but I will get that to you and make your own assessment. I'm not listen.
Well, look, when I look at this video here, I mean, this is inside the Capitol. Like he's taking a selfie with the police officer, with the cop.
I think that diminishes the police officer.
Well, the policy
that diminishes law and order, and the police are the police. They're not they can be a friend, but they're not your friend. They're there to hold, especially if you've broken the law.
What I'm getting at is What I'm getting at is that, like I say again, this was closed off to the public, and they were able to access this, and cops who are there to uphold the law. I mean, as we see right now, I saw even NBC News stated that the DC police Capitol Police was being heavily criticized for this. But when you saw the video earlier, they opened the gates.
Right. Well, what does that tell you?
They knew who they were. Yeah.
Now, I didn't know that, but I began my conversation before you played the tape and said this was all planned and it had to have people on the inside. That's where I started off. So I'm not surprised. I don't know how long he's been on the force. I don't know law. I don't know what he was told to do. We don't know. This is deep, man. This is.
I can tell you. I know if it's closed off and you can't. I know for a fact you can't bring weapons inside there. I mean, that's for sure. That's certainly trespassing.
And the official policy is if you breach the Capitol building, they have the right to shoot to kill because they want to. So
right.
How did they get in there with how did they get in there without that police support? I mean, the fact that they breached the wall showed you that there are a lot of people who were supporting your Donald Trump, and they were supporting this action because if we look at Black Lives Matter 3 months ago, there was a heavy armed force of police. There were also FBI. There was also your National Guard, but there's nobody here. And again, that's because these were white males and they had white privilege, and they're not going to go out here and do harm to other white males.
Okay, they weren't there because that was part of the game. You mentioned something, man. You said something, and it just dropped out of my mind. Let me drop it back in. Oh, if this was the plan of Trump, would you have said it was totally, basically defeated? Because at that point, they disrupted, and the legislatures, the congressmen and the senators got so taken back by it, they didn't continue contesting, which is what Donald Trump wanted. I mean, this is kind of absurd.
Well, this is beyond Donald Trump. They want to send a message. You have to.
They sent a message. Basically, they did, and they weren't so much trying to send a message. They were trying to disrupt the process, and they did. They were successful. It should have been seen before.
And they're not finished. They are not finished. And Americans don't understand how dangerous these people are. And how.
Well, I don't think it's the same people. See, that's where we differ. That's where we differ. I don't believe they were Trump supporters. And I just told you, please share the video with my friend that's on tonight, how they
What
took
video?
Because he's the ones that took pictures with the police. They traced his photo down and went on his Twitter account, and he was Antifa Washington, D.C. Antifa Philadelphia was also there.
Well, I don't doubt, Bishop, Pastor, I'm not doubting that there are people that.
Well, these are the people that breached. These are the people that breached. This is what I'm talking about. First, and I'm going to say again, I'm not, I don't want to spend the whole time defending it.
Well, I'm not saying that they weren't involved in some way, shape, or form, but I think to what Shawn's point is that he's pointing out, and I can agree that there was a difference in how these people were treated vis-a-vis what we saw several months ago.
Okay, I'm telling you, those officers and those people, those officers were assigned to the place that was breached. First of all, that is improper. That is improper protocol for an officer.
I agree.
You have breached, and I'm going to take a video with you.
Was the officer? I mean, did the officer know these people?
Absolutely.
So you think he knew those? You think he knew those people that were in there?
The police. All the police chief has to do. Who's going to be on that day? All right, you're assigned. Boom, boom, boom. Okay. Those officers were anticipating. I'm going to say it again. It's already been proven. They couldn't have got in unless somebody let them in. And you had the video. I'd never seen the video you had. You had the video.
I've been showing it.
All right. So, I mean, yeah, that's helpful. I mean,
I've been showing where he took the picture. That's it right there. And
it's kind of obvious they did what they had to do. I mean, and there were legislators on the inside that knew it was going to happen. Because
right, and then
at that point, the plea came up, well, let's not contest any longer. Let us just vote. That's not what the Trump people wanted. They were out there. They wanted to go through the process. And I want to ask both of you a question, and I won't take it any further. Did they steal the election? Is there any proof that they stole the election? Now go street with me. Just your African American sense, because we have that. Okay, all right, that we do have. Even when we go on to be intellectuals or we go on to be a CEO, we still got that street savvy of discernment. You may not like Trump, you may not like his policies. That's not what I'm asking you. I'm asking you.
That could have been. Well, here's the thing.
Did they steal the election?
I don't have evidence in front of me that shows that, but I have heard and read what others have said. I've heard what you've said and what has been reported. What I will say is that is it possible that they could have done that? Yeah, they've done it before in history. Those are things that have happened. A lot of
Nixon, Kennedy, yeah, right. But
well, not just Nixon, Kennedy. So there's also
probably most of them.
I know that they tried to steal Lincoln's election in 1864 when that happened.
But the magnitude. Did you see the footage from Georgia? Come on, you saw that. I know you saw that. What's the answer to Georgia? What's the answer to that video? What do you tell me? What do you see there?
Well, wait. Let's not get off on that when we talk about the election because I just want to know. I don't know what video you're referring to exactly.
Okay. All right.
I'm not going to say something that I haven't.
I didn't know. I thought. See, I'm making an assumption that everybody by this time is watched them take the ballots from out underneath the table with the black apron on.
There's been a lot of video. I'm just saying, if I've seen a lot of videos. So I just don't know. I don't know and pinpoint exactly what you would say, so that's why I'm refraining from that. But Shawn, if you want to answer it,
well, there are no. I don't have any proof that anything happened with this election, so I can't say anything about that because if there's no documentation, no facts to back that whole theory up, so I can't say anything about whether the election was fixed or not. I mean, People voted, and that's what they made their choice, and it is what it is. And people have to accept the choice that they made. I mean, in 2016, we had to accept that Donald Trump was the president of the United States, was elected president. And in 2020, people have to accept that Joe Biden was elected the president. The whole thing is people made their choice, and they have to accept the choice that was made. That's just the way it's always been, and nothing anybody can do about it. We can talk about Dominion voting machines and other conspiracy theories, but it doesn't change anything at the end of the day.
Well, the one vote, one person. This is why it gets beyond that. That's why. But you said you didn't feel you had the evidence, and when people say there was no evidence, no court has heard it yet, and that shows you talking about how deep the deep state is. Even this Congress could have said we want a 10-day commission. That's what fake Ted Cruz said. He's a phony. He's a fake. Okay, he's Republican. But I've seen him for 4 or 5 years now, and I know some things. I just know some things. Just leave it at that. He's a fake. So he says 10-day commission, knowing what was going to go down. And what happened to the 10-day commission? See, why would you want to see if it was a fair vote? Now, lastly, if you have dual electors going from legislatures that has seen evidence, and they say, well, we better send another set. Okay. Why wouldn't a judge then say, well, what did they see that they're sending 2 sets of electors? And why would another fake Republican, Chris Christie, and why would other people get on? See,
well, in truthfulness, when you say fake,
you can't say no evidence. No, 6 states.
Trump is not a. Well, I'm just saying this. Trump himself is not actually a true Republican either. He's a.
No, he's not. He's Trump. That's what I. That's why. That's why neither side likes him. Okay, but the fact of the matter is that if 6 states send dual electors, I think you need to look at what did they see. When is that ever taken? When in your lifetime? When has that ever happened? Now I'm not going to go into everybody stop counting at a certain time. Those 6 states. I'm not going to go into that. This is your program. But when you say no evidence, somebody saw something. A state legislature, which is made up of how many? 100, saw enough to send another set of electors. Well, what did they see? If I'm an honest judge, well, let me check out what you saw. And I could say other things that are not. It's known facts that Alito told them to stop counting on that Tuesday, and they kept counting for 3 days more. I mean, shouldn't that go to the court? Now, it very well may. The Supreme Court may have said, y'all take care of this in the legislature, and if you can't take care of it, we'll take some of those cases. No evidence has been presented to a judge. Give me a break.
But the Supreme Court declined to hear anything about what happened in Pennsylvania.
Judge Alito gave a direct order that wasn't even answered. I'm waiting to see how that.
I remember that, but again, they denied. When he appealed it, they denied wanting to hear it. They denied him to hear it.
What does that tell you?
They said they weren't interested.
This is what do I say? This goes beyond James Bond and all that. This is deep, some deep stuff. You won't know until January 20th, or possibly beyond. Even with the certification of the vote, watch what I tell you, because you cannot put a felon in the seat. That's why the laptop and all these other things have not even been. Man, this Barr, deep state Reagan, man, he doesn't have. I don't think he has enough people in my mind. Only God can help him right now. only God can help him.
I'm aware you're talking about the thing involving the son Hunter Biden, where he's being investigated. I'm aware of all of that that's going on. Yeah, but as of right now, as it stands, as the law provides, as you may know, everyone is innocent until proven guilty, and it's unlikely I'm just looking at it that charges, so forth, are going to be brought at this particular time, especially since it's so close. But and I certainly don't think Trump is going to be impeached in the next 15 days. I just don't see that happening
Right.
myself. Yeah. So, but I do want to talk.
Just remember, if he gets impeached, he can't run again. That's
Right.
why I'm pushing this. That's the other reason why I'm pushing this. Of course, at his age, with his money, why should he? But you know, he's Trump.
Well, he was technically impeached already, but he was not removed. When you vote for an impeachment, the Congress votes for the impeachment, and the Senate votes to remove, and the Senate declined. They did not have enough votes to remove Donald Trump.
Hopefully, they won't have enough on this one either. I bet I would not be surprised if it comes up before the 15th. But I agree with you. I mean, there's been so many improprieties. We're dealing with stuff is global. This is global. This is stuff that you read about in a book, thinking that indeed is some novelist's great idea of world power is battling, but it's quite evident. It's quite evident.
Well, let's talk about something though too. Though the response that Trump made, obviously to what was going on. Shawn, if you had a chance to look at his response, I know he's given several video messages. I saw that he did renounce the violence, but then he said, even though this election was stolen from us, it seemed to it incites the flames, though, when you have people still out there that are inside that Capitol after all that's happening. DC, of course, is on lockdown. They have curfew for the next 15 days. When you saw that, Shawn, what did you think?
When I saw that, I just saw that he probably conceded, basically, in order to get people to stop acting out, because it was going to get worse. And the whole thing is, he conceded because it was looking bad for him and all of his followers to have them go actually storm into that Capitol building. It was really looking bad for him. It was also looking bad for him, not only on a national scale, but an international scale. I mean, it looked really bad, and he had to concede because this was a really, really terrible situation when you look at it from an optics perspective. Here you have a whole group of people basically participating in what many would call an insurrection act, basically storming into the Capitol building to go after the legislators. I mean, he had to concede because it looked bad for him. And it basically proved a lot of these people on the far left's point about your Donald Trump. And this is the type of behavior they expected of him and expected of his followers. And it really showed how they had, ironically, these people call themselves patriots, but they had basically violated the whole idea of the political process. I mean, basically in a political process, people know that one side is going to lose. And usually you just accept that there's a loss. But if you have people going out here and basically storming the Capitol building, that's like an act of terrorism when you really think about it. And it's an act that really makes you say that these people aren't patriots because they're not really following the Constitution, which usually when you follow the Constitution, you're going to say, okay, this side lost, we're just going to deal with it, and then we're going to make plans to lay out our agenda for the next election cycle. But these guys, what they did was they basically went out here and again exploded in this rage and basically terrorized people with their actions. It was what many people call an act of terrorism, because you would never see this from a group of if a group of black people or a group of Muslims did the exact same thing, guess what? We would have seen those DC police and the National Guard. It would have been a completely different response, and they would have been shooting at those individuals because they would have called them the terrorists, but they call these people rioters. Again, playing on words, which is what the white supremacist loves to do. He loves to play with the words when it comes down to white people when they participate in these actions. He'll call them rioters or protesters. But if these were blacks or anybody else, they would have been called terrorists. And that's what we saw was an act of terrorism. And that's what we saw.
Right. Well, Pastor, I want to know what your thoughts are when you saw, I guess, Trump's response to what happened.
Well, yeah, once again, from the 1.6 million that were there to the 40 or so that were hired and paid to go in, certainly he doesn't want life to be lost at any time. This is the first president that we've had that didn't start any wars. It's the first president we've had that has given more money to benevolent issues, especially in the Black community, than any other president prior. This is a president that, who, by his policies, has truly tried to do something for Black people without chance of yes, we can, and there's been no action. This is a president who is also pro-life and showed up at the rally. So a person who's given the most money to HBCs than any other president or administration, and extended the time for which they were to come back and ask for it again. They used to have to ask for it every year. I think there was now 10 years now they don't have to ask for any more money. It's in the budget. So making a long story short, I'm not surprised. I personally, if I came home and all my stuff was gone and I know who did it, we're not going to move on. Okay, get a better lock next time. No, or we'll make sure this doesn't happen again. I know where my stuff is. I'm going to get it. Okay, and I have proof on that. He feels he has proof that has not been heard, proof that has not been vetted. I
get that part, Pastor. I get that part and I understand that. I just got to say this though, but when you're talking about similar, and maybe it's not the same, similar to what happened in Charlottesville when you and I have spoken, and his response to that. When you have violence,
he could. I thought he wasn't a politician at that time. He was learning. You got to think before you say something. I knew what he meant by what he said, and I also value a man by what he does. Okay, but truly, your actions do speak louder than your words. And I'm sure African Americans appreciated the lowest unemployment figures in our history. But
I still have a job.
But he, as I stated, more or less, unquestionably, is not the best orator. Certainly.
Pastor, that was a bad. But come on, when you see white supremacy,
wait a minute.
I have to interrupt.
Who was shot?
I have to. Pastor,
yes.
Right, please, I'm the host. When you have white supremacists, people that are not, you have Nazis that are out there, and you have people carrying Confederate flags, and you said there are very fine people on both sides.
There are good people on both sides. That's what he said.
Okay, fine or good, same, almost synonymous. When you say stuff like that, and even if there weren't people that were there to commit violence, I don't think that they necessarily were going out there to kill other protesters. And yes, I know that there were, like we say again, people on the other side that provoked stuff. As a president, as an official, it's your job to try and unify the country. Don't you think it's wrong when you incite stuff like that? And
well, you just answered your question. He was
president.
He was trying to unify, and it was a gaffe. Get ready for all the gaffes you could ever possibly want starting January 20.
But he doubled down on that gaffe.
What he was basically saying, and like I said, he is not an orator. He's not
There's
even
nothing good about it. Excuse me, I'm not trying to interrupt you, but Clay Del Mar was saying he's talking about the statute thing. Go look that up. No, but he was still, it doesn't matter whether it was people that were there for the statute thing. That's one thing, but you're associating with white supremacists and Nazis. I'm sorry, I can't look.
No, he wasn't associating.
No, I'm not talking about.
He's the president, as you said. The president is the president of everybody, but he doesn't associate with
Pastor Childress. I'm not talking about
thing.
Let me finish. I'm not talking about him associating. I was addressing Clay Del Mar's comment because you can't. I don't know if you can see it about talking about the statute thing. I'm saying that when you have people out there that are there protesting, if something is wrong, if you associate with somebody already, like a Richard Spencer, who is he's a white nationalist. He's self-identified. Mm-hmm. That's a bad sign already. Whether you agree with taking down the statues or not, being associated with any rally with him you should know better, is going to put a black eye on your mom.
Is Donald Trump racist? Either one, either just one of them. Donald Trump.
John?
Well, I'm not gonna. Well, I'll just say this: there is no. I mean, is he a racist? I mean, if he associates with racists, you got to say that the guy.
Oh, then he's not a racist because he doesn't associate with racists. He made a comment about the situation that he should have spoke. He didn't speak properly. I'd have said it differently. You'd have said.
And he was endorsed by racists like your Richard Spencer and white supremacist groups. And he used those as his political base. I mean, that was
he did not.
That was his.
Did he ask for those endorsements?
He took them. If you take something,
no, he did not. No, he did not. Now, see, you shouldn't say that. That is not true.
To power after the George Zimmerman, after that coward Eric Holder did not take action against George Zimmerman, and that led to the rise of these white nationalists, and it led to the rise of Trump. We can connect that timeline, and he got endorsements from them to build the momentum for his agenda.
Well, Trump has said, yes, and well, let me say this, brother, to answer the question, Brother Ron Hurd said this about Trump. Trump said himself, "I'm the least racist person." He didn't say I wasn't racist, so that answers it.
We all have bias. I agree with that. Now, see, I may not. Here's where I differ.
Like Dr. King even said himself that I will get to Joe Biden in a second. I have been critical of Mr. Biden because Biden has been associated with white supremacists as well throughout his career. And frankly, he has espoused white supremacist ideology. What I'm saying is Dr. King has stated, Biden hasn't?
No, I'm saying Biden, you act like that's that all that stuff is aloof, what you just said.
Because it's not aloof. It's not.
Wait a minute. He has said he didn't want his children to go to school in a jungle, and he's talking about.
That's what I was saying.
I know, but that statement is, go there, go right there.
I said he was associated with white supremacists,
and you don't hear one black activist, Black Lives Matter, none of them take him to issue on that.
No, I agree with you.
Yeah,
I don't know if you watched.
Oh, right. No, I know what you're saying.
If you've watched my videos, I mean, look, I've been very critical of Joe Biden's past and the things that he's done even presently. His bills that he has enacted have impacted the black community.
So his actions,
but I'm not going to sit here and give Trump a pass either on stuff that he has said. Yes, if I look between Trump and Biden, who's the worst? Obviously Biden has the worst track record. Why? He's been in politics longer. But Biden was endorsed by
what legislation passed that Donald Trump basically lobbied for and sponsored in his programs that would have been racist?
I'm not talking about his policies and what things that he's enacted. I'm talking about what he's been associated with and things he has said.
I see.
And I said that Biden's policies have impact. I just said his policies impacted us more, had a negative impact more than anything Trump did.
What did Trump do that had a negative impact on black people? Please, I want to know.
I said, no, you're twisting what I'm saying. I said that Biden had a far worse negative impact than anything Trump has done. The only thing what Trump has done, basically, if you want to say, has been talking a lot in regards to him associating with those people.
I don't mind this. He's got issues. Every president's got issues. But he talks, he misspeaks.
But children are also looking at this too.
But when he signs and does something, I watch what you do. I watch the prophets what you do. And I have not, and if you could have enlightened me, I would have taken, yay and so, or I'd have shared my difference. But the policies that he presented and pushed did more for black people since I've been living. And I go back to the 60s, where I could think. Now, I was born in the 50s, but I go back to the 60s.
Well, his policies.
That's just an opinion. You can say his opinion, but I'm trying to. It's based on what he's done. So if he misspeaks or says something, hey, we all got issues. Listen, I wasn't thrilled about white people all of my life. Listen, I mean, gosh, we made comments about white people that we now, as a preacher, that I would not say, but I would say it a little differently. But the fact of the matter is, he grew up in that culture, so he's going to slip. It's embedded. He's trying his best, but see, how do you try your best to shake it? By what you do. And he's done a lot.
Okay, but Pastor, I have to say this again. You just said that Trump's people made a mistake, obviously, with this protest because somebody could have stepped up.
It was a very bad mistake. It was.
How many mistakes he's gonna have?
I don't even know how that happened. He should have known there were going to be people there. They were all dressed alike. I mean, it was quite obvious. They were spotted by my friend when he was heading down. If he spotted them, why couldn't anybody else have discernment to know they're not a part of the group? Come on. That was a very poor mistake. Very, very strategically. It shows lack of foresight and you're out of touch with the streets. Okay. And I voiced that on a couple of places.
Right.
Listen, if it's obvious, obviously it was a bad mistake, and it's something he could. Let's say this is something unquestionably he could have foresaw, or the people around him. I mean, maybe he's still worrying about what Mike Pence was going to do. He folded like a piece of paper. But the fact of the matter is, there should have been people around him that should have prepared. She called the military in on the night before.
DC mayor called the National Guard.
Right. I said she called. I don't know her name. But she called them in the night before. I personally thought when she did that, she was going to stage them so there would be nothing of that sort, especially when they're about to vote.
Ariel Bowser.
And right, thank you. And I don't know, unless it was deliberate.
Well, I want to move on. Okay. Well, I want to move on though, but this is something that was reported just recently. Newsweek says that documents stolen from the Capitol may contain national security risks. During the break-in to the federal building, rioters rifled through desks in the Senate chambers and stole artwork. Others entered congressional members' offices. Pro-Trump rioters vandalized Democratic House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's office and ransacked the office of Republican Oklahoma Senator Jim Inhofe, according to Tulsa World. In a video posted Wednesday evening, Democratic Oregon Senator Jeff Merkley said that rioters smashed his office door and stole a laptop in addition to tearing things off of the walls and trashing the place.
Well, you're really centering, and there's no question in my mind now. It was deliberate, and it was set up, and unquestionably they had help on the inside. No doubt about it. What is this, White House down? Give me a break. That was a complete setup, especially if they got into the offices and ransacked. I mean, you didn't ransack. You taking what, papers of that? Oh, please.
I'm not just saying papers. We're talking about discs and so forth that contains national security, top secret information.
Oh man! Oh, come on!
This is what the acting attorney general says.
I wait till that's vetted. Newsweek is come on. You're down there taking selfies after you stole national secrets. Come on. All right, listen. Hey,
whether not White House down, but Olympus has fallen.
Yeah, that Olympus is falling. There you go.
Yeah. So, Shawn, I just want to know what your thoughts, if you could share anything on the national security risk aspect of it.
It's very troubling when you think about that. Almost 20 years ago to it's coming up this September, where 9/11 happened. And in the aftermath of 9/11, we have this security breach, which may actually put confidential information in the hands of terrorists. I mean, after we lost 3,000 lives here in New York, we have a major security breach. And the great irony is that because of racism, we had, I believe, 9/11 because we didn't want to look at the intelligence. And here we have, again, because of racism, nobody wants to look at what's going on here, because for these people to breach and then get access to these confidential documents, we don't see what type of danger we're putting ourselves in, because everybody's so obsessed and caught up in their feelings about one man, this Donald Trump, that they can't see that they're putting the entire country at risk. I mean, anybody who gets some of this documentation and gets a hold of it, they have access to secret confidential information, and that's dangerous to have in the hands of these white supremacists, these urban, as I call them, American terrorists. And it's sad that 20 years after 9/11, we haven't really learned anything, even after all the efforts we've made with things like establishing the TSA and all these other things. We still don't understand how dangerous this situation is. And sadly, I think because so many people are so caught up in racism and so caught up in their emotions about racism, they can't understand the danger that this whole situation it relates to everything. Because if a person has access to documents as related to national security, they can really do some serious damage to the country and do serious damage that could lead to the deaths of Americans and put American infrastructure and things at risk.
Yeah, most definitely. That is a strong possibility. And, I noticed, especially about 9/11, I remember one of the major things that we gave up as a country was our Fourth Amendment rights. Subsequently, after the airplanes that flew into the buildings, subsequently, George W. Bush wanted to push for more national security, the creation of Homeland Security. And then we had the Patriot Act, which subjects Americans to unreasonable searches and seizures. And I've noticed that we have given up a lot of our rights with that. Also, even with things such as the National Defense Authorization Act that was signed under Barack Obama, which is something that I really didn't like, was how it suspends habeas corpus if you're suspected of committing a crime if you're suspected, particularly of terrorism on a federal level. They can hold you without court, without trial. So those are some dangerous things we have to think about as we move forward, because a lot of people don't realize how close that this country can turn in a second, especially after a national crisis. I believe it was Rahm Emanuel who even said, "Never let a good crisis go to waste." I believe that was something even repeated by Karl Rove. That was, if I'm not mistaken. But I wanted to talk about this next thing, if we can. Shout out to everybody in the chat. The election in Georgia, which obviously had big implications. Of course, now you Democratic House and Senate. Obviously, Kamala Harris will be the tie-breaking vote. You have Joe Biden that's coming in as president, and what that will mean, because we've had the elections of Warnock and Oferner. If I want to say their names correctly. Their full names, excuse me. It was John Ossoff and Raphael Warnock that were reported they won, and they won in a very close race. Now that the Senate has a majority, it's not the first time, obviously, majority Democratic, and it's not the first time that has obviously happened when Barack Obama was president. I remember he had a majority Congress, Democratic Congress, his first 2 years. What do you think will happen now that they have John Ossoff and Raphael Warnock as senator in a majority Democratic Congress, and obviously a Democratic president, a moderate Democratic president in Joe Biden? What do you think? Bishop, I keep calling you Bishop.
Maybe it's in the future.
So, Reverend, reason why I'm thinking that is because I usually talk on the phone on Wednesdays with Bishop Gerald Scott. Shout out to him. I don't know if he's watching, but I just think of that. But yeah, maybe I promoted you for the future, Reverend. Go ahead.
Well, if it is as you say, or as it appears right now, you'll probably have some of the strongest abortion legislation attempted to be passed. You will have he will have the power of the executive order. So with one stroke of the pen, thousands of more children will die overseas and in Mexico. Now, also unquestionably, that he will roll back as much as what Donald Trump has done economically, because their ideology, if you follow it, unquestionably, a strong United States economically or militarily, they feel is not necessary. And that has been, and there's one thing you can say about Democrats, they stay lockstep. It's amazing. It's almost like a cabal now instead of a party, but they stay lockstep. And part of that agenda, unfortunately, which it has been with the Democrats, is eugenics. And you will see, if it remains the same, the complete, a strong effort of a mass, what's the word? Oh, good Lord, inoculations. There will be demands. First, they will say that it's not mandatory. Then it's going to move to mandatory for the safety of others. Then but before that, probably would be travel restrictions. Well, you can't fly unless you had your
Vaccination.
Thank you. Your vaccinations, and that's going to be that's a part of the global agenda. Bill Gates, World Health Association, Dr. Fauci, all that is in China, because China fully will be sitting in the seat if that happens, if it remains the same. It's really, you're really going to see what this has all been about prior to Donald Trump. Prior to Donald Trump, the agenda switched then. He didn't believe in the globalist agenda. And undoubtedly, we saw a little light at the end of the tunnel. And of course, I'm more concerned about the social issues, and especially when it comes to the abortion issues, because people of color are always targeted because they believe they need less people of color in the world. So that's the thinking. That's the ideology. That was Margaret Sanger. That is my brother, Bill Gates. Yeah, that's Bill Gates. That's the other guy too. Also very supportive of the eugenics community. I can't think of his name. He's also as wealthy as Bill Gates.
Elon Musk.
No, he could be. I don't know, but I can't. One is a little bit more familiar.
Not George Soros, is it?
Well, George Soros, absolutely. George Soros, absolutely. Warren Buffett. Sorry, Warren Buffett.
Okay.
And if Kamala continues with her record out in California, especially when it came to my brothers on the corner, smoking marijuana, she felt she had to lock them up and make sure they stayed behind jail. I know that, here's the thing. No, that's not even a question.
Here's the thing. I don't know. I'm curious. No. I'm curious as to when she will take over as president, because I honestly don't know if President-elect Biden will be in office for a long time, just based off of his age, because being president is a very stressful job.
Very, very good observation. Most of America, and let me just say this: I'm under the belief that, and don't be offended, it's by what I read and what makes sense, and the crowds he drew, and all those other things where you couldn't get 100 people to go to a Biden rally, that he did win by a landslide. the Dominion software that they went and seized from the main server in Germany or Switzerland where people were killed. Basically, Sidney Powell sent back the map. It shows that he won California. Well, with Gavin Newsom, no offense to you, and of course, you're the good Gavin.
Thank you very much.
And the policies he was doing, that doesn't surprise me. I believe he won Virginia too, but it doesn't surprise me. I want to see this all play out. I would love to see it play out with Donald Trump in. I think he deserves a second term, but I definitely want to see the Rudy Giuliani. These people have come to the point that they're in their last decade or so. I think he would want to leave out with a proper legacy. Oh, by the way, you mentioned Georgia. I didn't even want to bring it up, but I follow what he's saying because he's one of the president's legal team. He's saying they actually caught them now this time in Georgia. Rudy Giuliani. He's saying they did the same thing again with software. That's brazen. And I said, man, is Rudy getting old or what? No, he said it's going to come out. We're taking the right avenues because they caught even the players in the act. So if they were stupid enough to do it again the second time, they need to get caught the first time, but you unquestionably need to get caught the second time. So matter of fact, I can send you that too. I owe you two. Sometimes I forget where I read it, or did I read this, or did I see it? So,
well, let me get Shawn's take, because Shawn's been sitting for a while I want to stick with the Georgia Senate race with Ossoff and Warnock. Shawn, what were your observations on it? And I'll give my thoughts.
Well, my observations on the Georgia Senate runoff is that, yes, the Democrats did get a victory, but it's going to be what I call a Pyrrhic victory. I mean, yes, they got the presidency, they got the House and the Senate, but what they're going to have is a short-term thing. I mean, when I look at the Biden presidency, it reminds me a lot of Bill Clinton's first 2 years in office. And I remember everybody was celebrating Bill Clinton in '92 and everything looked so good. But then in '94, we had the Republican landslide. And that's because many of these states right now, they're not doing very well. And a lot of the governors, like your Gavin Newsom's and Andrew Cuomo's, their approval ratings are falling as we speak. So while your Biden did win, he really did not win by a majority. He did not win a mandate. So he does not have, carte blanche the way Barack Obama or Bill Clinton had as related to an agenda, because the Democrats lost seats and the Republicans have a good chunk of votes in the House. And when it comes down to the Senate, it's still basically in a gridlock holding pattern. I mean, you need Kamala Harris to be the tie buster, and that's not really a good situation to be in. And all it takes is another revolution, and we could see the whole House and the Senate flip. And this is a very fragile situation, and it's not a good place for your Joe Biden to be, because he does not have the support for an agenda, and he does not have the votes to get any sort of agenda through. So he's really in a short-term situation that could fall apart long-term. And I'm predicting in 2022, we may see many of these states which are suffering, like California and New York, flip red. And we may even see them lose a lot of state houses and a lot of state legislatures. And we may see another bloodbath that we saw in 1994, because there's just the way the country is right now. Again, Joe Biden doesn't have a mandate. He doesn't have the votes for a mandate. And the way the country is, it could flip at any time, because a lot of people are not really on with this Democrat agenda. They just wanted to be able to get what they think the country right as related to COVID-19, but they have not really agreed on any agenda. And your Joe Biden could wind up with legislation getting tied up and legislation being stalled. And that could really lock things up, because you don't really have a real solid majority. And even Barack Obama, with a solid majority, he managed to mess things up back in 2009 with the unemployment benefits extension. And when he did not get that benefits extension through, that started the decline of the Obama presidency and led to his whole presidency falling completely apart. And your Joe Biden has an even more fragile platform. And this could go any way in any time. I mean, it's not in a solid place. And again, when I look at Joe Biden's whole presidency, I look at the Senate race, it's not just giving them a majority. It's not really giving them anything solid. And again, all of this could flip in 2 years.
No, most definitely, it can flip in 2 years. I think at this point, the main reason, and something was interesting when before the election in Georgia, I remember Biden said something to the effect that you need to elect a Democratic Senate so you can get the $2,000. And I'm paraphrasing exactly what he said, but that was something that happened, which I know is even unethical for a politician to do. You can't obviously tell people vote, you'll get money. That's kind of a bribe, but but I think that was something that did hurt Mitch McConnell and the Republicans mainly because, and this is something that's interesting. Excuse me. Here's something that's interesting. When I look at all of these politicians that are running, I looked at this aspect of it. Most people don't know that there was over $500 million that was spent in running ads for this election. Did you know that for the Georgia Senate race?
Yeah.
It was $500 million. And
both sides, you're saying.
Total. It was total. You're right.
Yeah, right.
For both sides. So when I look at that, and then I'm looking at people like Nancy Pelosi, who, I have to fault her as well for this stimulus package being held up because they added a lot of pork in it. And she certainly was more worried about beating Donald Trump in the election before they did this. And then I look at Mitch McConnell and holding off the $2,000, which was something that he could have done. And if he, frankly, let's say they did do that, I'm pretty sure they may have had Georgia just on that. But $600 doesn't go a long way for a lot of people. I mean, 600 can't get you anything. But my biggest point with all of this is that and this was shout out to Dr. Boyce Watkins because he brought this up. We have multimillionaires in Congress. Kelly Loeffler, I believe, is by far the wealthiest. She has a net worth of $800 million. But I looked at Nancy Pelosi. She's worth about $140 million, approximately, and that's not including her government salary. She's worth, government salary, as you know, it is set. It's not something that fluctuates and changes. They have to vote on that when they want to change it. This is the article here. You can look at nearly $500 million spent on ads for Georgia Senate races. And people can see, obviously, by the money that they spent, how important that election is because a lot was at stake, including what, though, yes, elites decide what they want, but you're talking about big money that's being spent here. And I just found it hell of hypocritical that we have people who are never going to have issues as far as their health care, never going to have issues about when the next meal is going to come. They can afford to go practically wherever they want to go, unlike others. And some people have to work 2 or 3 jobs just to make ends meet. I find it very hypocritical that these people, Democrat and Republican, because I feel they all failed, that they get to decide how much money the American people should get when other countries are, as a result of this pandemic, they are openly giving people in some countries, I believe in Paris, France, I think they have given them, I believe, $8,000 a month, if I'm not mistaken.
I don't know.
Well, I can tell you this much, Pastor. $600 certainly is not enough.
No.
And it should not have been. And during the lockdown, we could have gotten something even more during that time.
Yeah, I agree. I think Donald Trump agreed when he was making the plea for it. And also, I keep holding out hope because he's not installed yet. okay, that something would come up. Something would come up to thwart that. First of all, once again, as I said, when he sits there, China sits there. But it's almost the same thing with Oslo that you mentioned. She's a Republican. It's almost the same thing. Matter of fact, it is the same thing with Mitch McConnell. These people have tremendous investments in China. China has bought us just about. And so when you heard him say 2 or 3 weeks before January 6th, he didn't want any nonsense or foolishness, he was threatening senators, okay? Because this is what China wants. Trump gone, okay? And the Republican governor in Georgia, he's not a Republican. You know, and the secretary,
Brian Kemp.
yeah, the Secretary of State finally just admitted it. So he went back to the Democrats. Ooh, surprise. You got to look for people who have a heart that could be on both sides, but Democrats pay greater prices for anything that they do outside. Tracy Gabbard, she wants to do is a good thing. You and I talked about before the Congress lady there in Ohio or Michigan, I think it was, that went to thank Donald Trump about the hydroxychloroquine, and they censored her. You pay the price if you disappoint the Democrats. Republicans play a game all the time. You have more rhinos there, basically, who are saying they're Republican, but they unquestionably think extremely liberal and will make deals with China and the left any day of the week because it's about power. You mentioned Nancy Pelosi. Her father was very rich. She's from Maryland. She had when they went out there, and she's gotten rich. How did that happen?
Well, I believe her husband is also wealthy.
Hey, now, and I ask you a question. Do you really think somebody, what do you say? What do they do? Vandalize or something her house? You can't even get in that gated community.
Well, Mitch McConnell's home was even vandalized as well.
Yeah, they both. Do you think Mitch McConnell and Nancy don't talk behind the doors?
I've seen pictures of them fist bumping. Yeah, they talk.
Trust me, they are not with America. They are not. I don't know if it's ever going to change. It's so deep.
Right. Now, this is Paul Pelosi. This is Nancy Pelosi's husband. He was the owner of the Sacramento Mountain Lions and the UFL. And he owns and operates Financial Leasing Services Incorporated in San Francisco, which is a real estate and venture capital investment and consulting firm. So I imagine he makes a lot of money.
Well, when is enough money enough? It's almost
100
spell. Once you get 1 million, you gotta have 5, and then I'm all for progressiveness, but at the sake of the people. Okay, you're sitting up there in that gated community, and just blocks from you, the streets of San Francisco are lined. If you haven't been out there, you'll break when you first see it.
$114 million is her net worth. I needed to correct myself. But Kelly Loeffler, her husband, she's the wealthiest at $800 million. Of course, her family co-owns, I believe, the Atlanta Sparks, which is the WNBA. No, it's not. I don't know what is the WNBA team? Atlanta Dream. I'm sorry. She co-owns that and her husband, Jeffrey Sprecher, is the CEO of the International Exchange and the chairman of the New York Stock Exchange. So that is a lot of money.
That's China. I don't care what anybody. I know that's China. And Georgia. China is heavily invested in Georgia. It's off the chain, from what I understand. And
America is highly indebted to China in general.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. But see, who came in and started putting tariffs on them?
Trump did. Yeah.
So it's I don't know. My main thing is the gospel. We're all going to go home one day. That's the way I think. Got to be ready there. Secondly, you hope that there can be some fairness. You mentioned how everyone's sitting up there arguing about whether somebody gets $600, got that, you know, in their piggy bank for their grandkids. I mean, it's unreal, these arguments and these this elitism. And elitism, see, we used to think it's just white Republicans. That, man, you got to come out of that. You got to come out of that. And they laugh at us. They'll go out to their country clubs where nobody is, and you'll see Mitch McConnell come in, and you'll see Nancy Pelosi come in. You'll see them all in their party. And not everybody belongs to the club, but certainly it's not based on politics.
Sean, Pastor, let me get Sean's take on this. What did you think of? Because I don't think you talked about the senator race and so forth, but just the amount of money that these politicians make, and you've done a video on it. I find it very hypocritical, arguing over $600.
I find it quite troubling that they have $500 million to spend on a Senate race, and it shows how again disconnected our political process is from the people. I mean, we have special interests who pretty much control the politics, and if they can get 500 million to run for an election, then why can't we get that kind of money for we the people? I mean, when I look at the stimulus screw job that transpired, it was really I see it a complete slap in the face to the American people, many of who have thousands of dollars in debt because they were laid off their jobs. Many people are on the brink of eviction. And both political parties, the best they can do is give us $600 when they created a situation that got most of the American people thousands of dollars in debt, cost them their jobs, and even put many people out of business. And their whole solution is just to give you $600, but yet they have $500 million to go spend on one state set of Senate races. And again, it just shows how our American political process is it's completely severed from the people. And that's not what the founding fathers wanted. I mean, what the founding fathers wanted, it was a government made by the people and for the people. And what we're seeing now is we've got a government that's by the wealthy, for the wealthy, and serves itself. And it doesn't really serve the people's needs. And it's basically, we're setting up for a situation like what happened in France in 1789.
I said the same thing. Yeah.
Because you have a government that's not serving the people and serving itself and not really listening to we the people and not really listening to the needs of the people. You've practically destroyed everybody's business, livelihood, and their ability to make a living. And instead of trying to help them, all they're thinking about is, let's get Joe Biden elected, let's get him a majority. And then what I say is what's going to happen is you're going to get the Biden swerve because the centrist Democrat is just going to tell you to just eat cake and then go on pushing his agenda for immigrants and homosexuals and abandon the American people. And
gun control.
Yeah, and gun control. He's going to screw the American people over. And again, this is why I say he's not going to last longer than 2 years, and that majority is going to get lost, and the state houses are going to get lost because he's not looking out at the people who have been suffering ever since the Great Recession. Many people like myself have never found that next job, and many other people out there, they're still struggling in these low-wage service jobs that were created under the Clinton administration. And most people are not seeing the American dream, and that's why they're becoming more and more frustrated, more and more angry, because they look at these politicians spending $500 million, and they've got that for an election, but you don't have any money to give the American people to get out of a debt that was created by their bad policies and their failed flatten the curve theory.
Sure, most definitely. Yeah, that's a very good point. And let me say this too. I'm very concerned myself personally. Some of the things I've looked at is what's going to happen with the Second Amendment, but because I looked at Biden's platform and it's very radical. And a lot of people, of course, they think that nothing like that can happen. Oh, they can't take your gun. They can't come in and take your gun. And I think they're missing the point when we talk about gun control. no, I don't believe Joe Biden is going to have paratroopers coming in, stormtroopers marching in, coming to take a weapon on his first day in office. No, I don't believe that. But what I look at is his own words and the laws that are changing and things that he's talking about. For instance, when you say, I want to remove all firearms, and eventually I want all firearms in the country to be smart firearms. Smart, of course, is the fingerprint guns that you have. Those are not 100% safe, number one. And number two, they may not even be reliable all the time, because if you have dirt on your hands or you're bloody, let's say you're in a fight and you're a woman and you grab a gun, well, it's not going to be able to fire because there's no clear fingerprint. Same thing with fingerprint safes that they have. Yes, they should be childproof. Yes, I believe there should be locks. I'm not against anything like that, but I think when you start talking about that, that is uh, far too, not only, I won't say just radical. I think that's just asinine to even think that, and to talk about AR-15s being removed. Some people who talk about that have never, I don't think, clearly know what even the term AR stands for in AR-15. It means Armor Light, which is the company that made it. It's not assault rifle, and it's not a weapon of war. If you carried that into war, you would be killed probably in less than 1 minute. They use automatic weapons in the military. But, those are just things that I think about. And, what has happened on January 20th, on January 6th, sadly, I'm looking at what's going to happen January 20th, because could something worse be up? I'm not that I'm wishing that happens at all. I don't ever want to see anybody get killed or hurt in any way, shape, or form. But I can just imagine, though, if this was just the first wave. That's why I call it Purge. But I want to talk about the final thing, and I want to discuss with this thing with Nancy Pelosi. I just saw this. This was brought to my attention. Now, don't get discouraged because it's on Fox News, but this actually came from Business Insider. But I'm only got it because this was the closest that I had here. She didn't include a ban on firearms for House members, but it says here Pelosi's new House rules are gender neutral, curtail GOP's ability to force gotcha votes. And what it says here specifically, excuse me. I hate when the videos start playing. New House rules unveiled by House Speaker Nancy Pelosi are completely gender neutral, strip away GOP opportunities to force awkward votes, and preserve lawmakers' ability to carry firearms at the Capitol. Of course, they already clarified she didn't include a ban on firearms for members. It says here the House 40-page rule package that will be voted on Monday after the new Congress commences, which was this past Monday, would also continue proxy voting during the coronavirus pandemic, ban lawmakers of certain crimes from visiting the House floor again, and change payment rules on legislation related to the virus and climate change. But I'm looking at this. Why is this necessary for the language to be changed and for gender neutral terms? Now, a lot of people may not know, in Washington, D.C., if I'm not mistaken, the council people a few years back, they had voted to remove terms such as manhole, such as councilwoman or councilman. But they're taking it a step further, according to my brother. Shout out to Torian Rain, because he talked about this. But even terms like mother, father, sister, and brother are being removed. And in fact, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that was something that was also included in the Equality Act that, President-elect Biden says will be his top priority. His top priority will be LGBTQ and reversing everything that Donald Trump has done. Shawn, your thoughts?
Well, when it comes down to this topic, what was the topic again?
It's about Pelosi's new House rules and gender neutral package that they approved on Monday.
I'm not a fan of that, because what they want to do is promote this identity politics. And this identity politics is about trying to make it where we have these multiple genders, and it's all about this so-called inclusion, but all it does is lead to more confusion. And by taking away the names like congressman and congresswoman, that really is about, again, pushing this identity politics and these what they call SJW agendas and these woke talking points. And these things are, again, they're not about inclusion, they're about confusion. And the people who promote them are promoting these confused ideas. And these confused ideas come from the far left, and these far left ideas, they're completely insane. And just like that pastor who talked about a woman, I mean, that's just, there's no gender on the word amen. And these people, if they're allowed to gain power and be able to push this legislation, they're going to make the country a complete mess, because these terms, they come from a place of, as I see it, lunacy, and they come from a place of people who are completely insane, because as it's stated in the Bible, God made male and female, and there are no other cajillion other genders out there.
All right, Pastor.
I concur. There's no question about it, but it is deliberate, it's systemic, it's incremental. And just being, I know where this is going. They're going to start lowering ages of consent even more. They're going to start, in some way, form, or fashion, legalizing pedophilia. All these things are the LGBT agenda, but it's something even more sinister about it is more or less to strip you of the Judeo-Christian ethic of who we are, as the scripture that was quoted. God,
marriage, yeah,
male, female, marriage. These are the marriages.
Family, yeah.
It is the building block, family. And not only that, it's also fights faith and the scripture, because it's basically saying the Bible is wrong. And no society has ever proven that to be, where we have always benefited by, especially children benefit by the family formula that we find in the scriptures. I feel sorry for the children. They didn't ask for this. They didn't ask to, even those who are already in the pain of not having a family, and then you put them in the family of lesbian or gay, basically imposing their sexuality upon the child because they're in those ages, more or less, of orientation. We are not animals. God has made it so that sexually we orientate through association and seeing good things that reflect that. So they're endangering it. So it's so that at that point the legislation is more demonic than it is have any. That's why my brother, lunacy. It doesn't make sense.
Right. Well, it's not even. Well, the thing is, too, what I don't understand is what's the purpose of them even doing that? What sense does that even make? Like, you're removing terms like mother, father, sister, brother. That's
how God communicates with us through the Bible. So if God communicated through me, through my brother, I go to church, a brother this, a brother that, a sister this, he said, mother of the church, mother that. I mean,
So now you're gonna say, hey, person A, what's up, person B?
it calls us to be more calloused also, I believe, personally.
Right. And anybody can, let me be clear, because I'm not, I can trigger the algorithm when you mention, obviously, terms like LGBTQ, and if you talk about the election 2020, things of that nature. YouTube puts a shadow ban on those who are opposed to certain issues. But I, like, personally, what people do behind closed doors, whether I like it or not, that's their business, that's their privacy. But why? But when you expose it, I guess, to the world, and then wanting everybody to accept it,
They're imposing it.
You're imposing your will. Yeah. Because I mean, I have seen people that have been fired, that have lost their jobs. I remember when Michael Sam got drafted by the Miami Dolphins, and
Right.
there
Right.
was a video of him and his boyfriend, and at some point I guess they kissed, and then another point they showed them shoving cake in their face or something like that. And a Miami Dolphins player, I said the Miami Dolphins drafted him. It wasn't the Dolphins, it was the Rams, excuse me. But it was a Miami Dolphins player, a safety who actually made a comment. He put a tweet out, was like, "Oh, this is horrible" or something along those lines. And he got suspended by the team and was forced to do sensitivity training. We as attorneys and as real estate agents, we get CLEs and CEs that we have to do because about diversity. As a real estate agent, I'm not allowed to discriminate, obviously, things of that nature, and that's fine. I do business with people. I mean, as a professor, I have people from all walks of life that come in. I frankly, I don't care what they do, and I treat them like I would want to be treated.
Right.
But
Exactly.
I don't have to. But I don't have to align with their ideology. I don't have to agree with everything they say, and certainly, I think some things don't need to be, imposed. There was actually a cartoon in Denmark that I saw that CNN posted about that shows there's a cartoon of some sorts for children in Denmark, but the character, and I'm not making this up, he actually uses his penis is featured in the show.
This is where it's going, unfortunately, and there's no.
I'm not making it up.
It's no good about that. I mean, as you said, it shares no good purpose. It's unreal. It's unnerving because it comes to a point. Well, Roland Martin, he made a joke about something. Then that was the day that African Americans realized that they weren't the chief special interest anymore.
About the Doritos commercial during the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I think it was the lobbying.
Yeah. He got
the LGBT powerful. So I'm like I said, I'm praying for revival. I'm praying that there's an awakening, and no better time than now. But I worry about my grands growing.
Oh my God, that's the actual cartoon.
Wow. That is perversion.
That is the actual cartoon.
You say that's in Denmark?
That is in Denmark.
Yeah, thank God. Well, that's liberality. Denmark's supposed to be so liberal, and this is what it leads to. This is what the liberality. Martin Luther King used to say rediscovering lost values. I love his voice tremored when he talked about the way he saw, even back then, the nation was beginning to shift in moral relevantism. And he said, basically, listen, some things are right and some things are wrong. And he listed those things, much of what now is this basically considered socially acceptable. So I don't know how long it's going to take, but it's the church's responsibility to carry values, and because we're his witnesses. And the church has been, as he said in his letter from a Birmingham jail, weak and ineffective, and not sounding a certain sound. We are deeply backslidden, and that's why we are that can find its way, just as it's going to find its way to Canada first, then it's going to come right here to the United States.
Right. Okay. Well, Shawn, did you have a comment on that, or?
Okay, well, when I look at America, it's really in a bad place morally. I mean, we have been in a bad place, I say, for a good 15 to 20 years. I mean, when I think about our moral position, it's gone on a steep decline ever since the late 60s. And it's guaranteed to get worse because we have people who really don't understand what direction they're going in. They think they're going in a progressive position, but they're actually headed down a road that is in some ways satanic. So they're not really seeing where they're going because they're so caught up in their lust for what they want to do, but they can't see how this stuff is just this craving to do these things is going to destroy them eventually. So I look at America, it's like our moral position is far away from the African proverb, which said a race can rise no higher than the moral position of its women. And as the women go, so goes the race. And America's been going in a bad direction ever since it embraced the feminist movement and empowered the women. And that also led to the decline of many civilizations like Rome, ancient Egypt, and Greece, yeah, and many other civilizations. They so-called empowered their women, and the women taught a culture of debauchery and deviancy to their children. And that culture went on from one generation to the next until we had people so caught up in their hedonism that they were not taking responsibility for their civilization, and it just practically fell apart. And America is on that exact same road, but you can't explain it to most Americans, because they don't really know where they just want to be so-called free, but they don't understand that nothing is ever free.
Freedom comes at a price.
And yeah, freedom comes at a price. So they don't really understand this. They just want to be out here and get caught up in their lust for what they want to do. But many of these things are ungodly, unnatural. They're abominations, and they lead the country further and further towards a decline. And as I see it, further and further towards the road to spiritual judgment.
Let me say this. I grew up, as you know, I'm from Louisiana. I was baptized in the Catholic Church. I grew up, my whole family Catholic. And particularly, I know that my father and my mother, but particularly my father, has a special devotion to the Blessed Virgin Mary. Now, those of you who don't know, especially in the Catholic Church, Mary is she's not, we don't worship her as God, but she is revered. She is highly revered because she is the first Christian, and she said yes to God's word. But most in particular, what a lot of people may or may have not heard is that across the world, people have had visions as well as apparitions of the Blessed Mother appearing to several people. Even as far as Africa, Our Lady of Kabiho, she predicted the Rwandan genocide. Our Lady of Fatima is obviously the most famous with the dancing of the sun. But Our Lady of Guadalupe is very popular as well with the tilma on St. Juan Diego's tilma. We're not painting, but the image, yes. And it's still there to this day. What I do want to point out, though, is something very interesting. There was an apparition in Quito, Ecuador, where she's called Our Lady of Good Success. And she's predicted that by the middle of the 20th century, there would be the loss of innocence in children. She described the downfall of the institution of marriage being attacked. She talked about modesty and dress. When that prediction was made, that was in the 1500s.
Wow.
So for 500 years prior to the 20th century, the Blessed Mother, obviously being told by God some of the things that would happen in this world. And when I look at, and the timing of it too, because by the 20th century, when Shawn, you just said it, in the 60s, middle of the 20th century, the things were changing. I remember in 1962, the Supreme Court had removed prayer from schools. Then the next Supreme Court, the next year, they removed the Bible from schools. And then in Griswold versus Casey, that's when they allowed contraception. And then 1973 was not only Roe v. Wade, but also a case called Doe v. Bolton. And Doe v. Bolton was actually even worse than Roe v. Wade because Doe v. Bolton basically allowed any mother to get an abortion for any logical reason. It didn't matter what it was, any medical.
All 9 months. Yeah.
Right. And so I look at that, and then of course in 2015 we had the Oberfell decision, which legalized gay marriage, same-sex marriage. And you've also seen, and she also talked about attacks on the church and attacks on the faith. And I see that now because churches, of course, have been ransacked. Of course, there are changes in the, priests and cardinals and bishops that are not setting a proper example. I mean, here in Louisiana, we just had something. One of the Catholic churches in St. Tammany, not St. Tammany Parish, but uh, and I did a story on this. It's in Washington Parish, actually. There was a priest that allegedly supposedly he got caught having a threesome on an altar in church. And, I'm thinking of all of that. And I look at all of the news that's what's happening. And coupling with this apparition that was brought to me, I'm wondering, is this what she's talking? Is this truly prophecy that we're witnessing? Are we at that point? Is the end coming? I don't know.
Yes. Yeah. As a matter of fact, I draw great strength from Mother Guadalupe. It's a shame we have these divisions, which I don't pay any mind to as far as fellowship. And I have a lot of friends that are Catholic because of what I do. But the Mother Guadalupe, I preached on that, by the way. And of course, when that vision or the tunic with that is certainly tangible proof to a profound miracle. But guess what happened? It stopped child sacrifice. And what was it? 15 million Mexicans turned away. And I said, well, we need that right. We need Mother Guadalupe today, right now.
The even bigger miracle of that, too, is that when they looked at the stars on Mary, on her tilma, I don't know if it's a tilma, but her robe, her clothing, the stars matched the sky at the time that the miracle had taken place. But what's even more interesting is that the way that the stars are aligned is not from a position of looking up, but from a position of looking down on earth. In other words,
exactly.
God's was looking down on earth when he painted that.
Well, I also say that when I was just starting out in my faith, I used to watch Fulton Sheen as a child. And I read his book later in my 20s, Survey the New Testament. And to this day, I cannot explain it. I just was not the same person. It seemed like God just opened my mind to a lot of things, and I began to really pursue after God. But I was going to ask you, I know we're getting close on time, and I can't remember the exact priest, and it's shameful. I normally can. I'm getting old now, I guess. But, this would be, according to this Catholic priest, it happened in the 1200s. And it is the most profound prophecy that we have on the planet. Now, when I say profound, as far as its rapidity of accuracy down to even the smallest of details, it's mind-blowing. But he says, and Fulton Sheen said it was accurate, so I endorse it. But he said, this would be the last pope, the pope we have now. And I don't want to offend anybody who's listening Catholic. You got to understand, Fulton Sheen, I never had the opportunity to meet, but had a great impact on my life. He said that Malachi prophecies, this is the last pope. And I hope I'm not getting in trouble, but I didn't say it. Malachi said it, that he's also the false prophet.
Talking about Malachi Martin.
I don't know. Is it the Malachi prophecies? And when I see him shifting his position on marriage and even confirmation and things like this, listen, I respect everybody. I respect the position. My pastor used to say, if you can't respect the man, respect the position. And I try to do that. But I have that book here, but some of the details he gives from the year 1200 all the way now, describing every pope. I mean, the Bible doesn't have any such prophecy at length that God gave him. And he said he was on his way to some type of consecration at Rome. Yeah, at Rome, and had this visitation. So Mother Guadalupe and the Malachi prophecies, I'm very well aware of. And
well, I'm aware of like the third secret of Fatima and things of that nature. In
I
fact,
was a child. I was a child.
in fact, in that apparition,
and
right.
three.
In fact, in that apparition, one of the things the Blessed Mother talked about was the errors of Russia. She stated that Russia would spread her errors throughout the world. Russia was not even a powerful country at the time.
Right.
But what was interesting is that Russia, and this is up your alley, they were the first country to legalize abortion. So,
yes.
Yeah. So
people don't know the average woman in Russia has a staggering 19 to 21 abortions. It all depends on what statistic you're looking at. It's during their lifetime, 19 to 21. That is unconscionable.
Yeah, that's a lot, man. I mean, that could kill them.
Yeah. But see, as Martin said, once again, it's not so much where there is sin. Let's see, where there is darkness, the people will sin. So therefore, it's not so much the darkness, the sin, or the people, it's those who created the darkness. As you referenced 1973, darkness was created because it's deceptive. They say it's legal, safe, legal, and rare. And I want to say, anybody listening, I say this out of my heart. I can say it to the face of God. I do not blame women. Absolutely. It's the system. It was a design system that entrapped women to make a decision, and for men to use it as a means to cut off any means of responsibility or dedication. And I understand sometimes I want to finish my education. I understand all that, but it is undoubtedly something that has decimated. And going back to 1973, also, I think it was in October or September, homosexuality was no longer a disorder, a psychological disorder.
That's correct. It was no longer a disorder according to the DSM. And in 2014, they got caught trying to do it. They removed pedophilia from it.
Yeah.
And they were corrected. They only put it back in because
the same people that did it in 73, and because they're mostly homosexuals that were on the board that made that decision. And once again, I'm not speaking derogatorily about the person. It's the lifestyle we don't embrace. I have homosexual friends. We choose to disagree. If they want to come to church, I've invited some to church. Some have come and stayed because they want to change. Okay. But as far as name calling, you didn't go through what they have gone through to be where they're at. And I think the Christians have done a great disservice to the homosexual community by two things. One, by ostracizing and demonizing them, and two, by not comfortably saying to them, "I love you, but your lifestyle is going to cause great pain for you. Can I help?"
This is something, well, when you have like the Nancy Pelosi, when you're starting to change gender neutral terms and things of that nature, it's going to get to a point where it's no longer outside. Well, I mean, it's already clear it's no longer outside your bedroom. Like Shawn was saying earlier, you're now going into we're going to new territory where we're trying to change the definition of what it means to be human even. I mean, I saw a video someone showed me that there was actually there's a robot they made, a frog robot that they made with frog parts. And I can just imagine and think eventually they're going to be making cyborgs pretty soon. Pretty soon you may have.
Yeah,
I mean, Houston, Texas. I remember last year they had a sex bar where they used female robots, and because people complained about it, that's the only reason why they stopped. So we're going into. I mean, we're starting to see things that we've never seen before. And
It will accept. Because Daniel says at the end, knowledge shall increase. And I always tell people, you say, okay, knowledge increase a lot. But you got to understand, since the time of Adam up until 1868, Fulton steam engine, the fastest way of travel was a horse. 1868 wasn't that long ago. And then we went from 1865, 68 to the moon and back in 100 years. So knowledge is increasing. So, and then look at what happened when we developed the microchip. You know, when I see these kids running around with cell phones, I remember what I had to do if I was not home, that I make a call. There was one phone at home. Not only that, I had to, if we were outside the home, you had to find a phone booth. These teenagers don't know what a phone booth is today. But
yeah, I still remember. I'm sure, Shawn, you remember phone booth.
I remember phone booths and pay phones and beepers and all that stuff. That was my era. But
I remember beepers. My dad used to have one but I mean, he wouldn't allow, kids weren't allowed to have beepers because, you know, people thought having a beeper meant you were associated with drugs or something. So,
well, when they first came out, you were important. You must be a doctor.
Right. Right, but now that's changed. Well, my dad was he was technically a drug dealer. He's a pharmacist. So
okay, awesome.
But I'm gonna let you guys have the last words. Pastor Childress, I'll let you have the last word, and then Shawn, you can have it.
You want, okay. Well, first of all, I enjoyed the conversation. Enjoyed being with you as I always do when I get an opportunity. And the next time I see you, a whole lot probably will have been settled. It's in my heart. I pray that we do not have a Joe Biden presidency, and I don't think it'll be good for the country. I want to see the Trump agenda continue. What it has done for the Black community, I have assessed as being very positive. And just ignore his bedside manner or his his decorum, and look at the results of what he attempts to do. And those results, even to the program that he was can't remember the name of it, going into the inner city, which has been so positive. Ben Carson was doing a great job with that. He doesn't talk enough about it.
About opportunity zones.
Yeah, the opportunity zone. Jim Brown loves them, and Jim Brown certainly has been an icon for African Americans and social justice in the country. So if Jim Brown approves them, I approve them automatically. I don't even have to check it out. So we're going into waters where we've never been, and I'm praying unquestionably that we recognize that if he's there, China is there, and there's going to be a great surgence of vaccinations, mandatory. The vaccination that they just have now, there's a means of tracking you. I think that it's called the Luciferian drug that they put in the vaccine so they can track you and sort of know your history, which is Revelation. I thought it was going to be something else, barcode or something. They can vaccinate you and track you.
RFID.
What was that? I'm sorry.
RFID chips.
Yeah, something will add to that too. So those things, for the sake of control, they think it's government controlling. It's actually they're fulfilling the purposes of the evil one, but it's not. We're not ready for that yet, and so we're going to. That's why I believe this is going to fail somehow. That agenda will not be imposed upon us, but I have certainly seen what it's going to be like. If we should be here in it, or hopefully taken out of it, Thessalonians 4:16. But I've seen it, and I would fear it. It's control. We tell you how to live. You take this vaccine. Why should I take a vaccine with this 99.3% cure ratio? I don't need a vaccine. Give me hydroxychloroquine. Give me Ivectomine. Congressman, this doctor was pleading. we have to inform people. That's why I said you got to keep doing this. You know, the discussions, the views that are shared. It's obviously there's brothers out here that need to begin to dig. You cannot go by the veneer of things any longer. So I appreciate being here. I pray for these mothers that have to raise children in these times. But I'm fighting for my grandkids at this point. Homosexual marriage, all that does not affect my marriage, but it's certainly their agenda can affect my children. And that's what's being imposed upon the children. But you said end times. Let me just sneak this one in. He said, as the days of Lot, so shall the coming of the Son of Man be. There was always homosexual activity here, even in the book of Genesis. But what's the difference? Why did the Lord say, as the days of Lot? He said that because they imposed themselves on Lot. Lot was living there. It was all good. Everybody was becoming wealthy. But there came a season and a time where they banged on his door and said, give us the persons that are in. So no longer were there boundaries. They began to impose their sexuality on the heterosexual community. And that's what we're in. It's being imposed. But where I say again, love your neighbor as yourself. It will not ever change shifting, hating on people. It's not, you don't have the hand of God working with you. God has solutions. I pray that we're able to apply them. Faith worketh by love.
All right. Shawn, go ahead and close it out, buddy.
Well, when I look at this year, upcoming year, I think it's going to be a very, very crazy year, and most Americans just need to tighten up their chin straps. I mean, I think a lot of people are going to be surprised by the Biden presidency. And I've always talked about something in my own videos called the Biden swerve. And I think a lot of people are, especially on the far left, are going to learn a hard lesson about your Joe Biden. And they're going to learn that they didn't get what they thought they were going to vote for. They're going to have all these crazy ideas of things they want to do. But they're going to find that your Joe Biden isn't what you think he is, because he's a centrist Democrat. And they're going to learn the hard way the difference between a centrist and a leftist, like a Barack Obama. And they're going to learn the really hard way about just voting based on emotion for a candidate. So I look at this year, and it's going to be a lot of people, especially on the left, who are going to be extremely disappointed because they voted for this candidate expecting one thing, and they're going to wind up with something else. And a lot of these people are going to be very angry because they felt like they got baited and switched by the media and everything out here. So I expect a lot of this is going to be a very crazy year, and a lot of things are not what people are going to expect. And a lot of these guys are going to start thinking they can blow out things like mandatory vaccinations. It's going to blow up in their face because there is no real support for that type of agenda. If you try to do this with people, where you have police demoralized, military demoralized, and you have American people, again, desperate and out of work. You're thinking you have leverage, but you don't have the leverage, and it's all going to blow up in their face in a very spectacular fashion. I mean, even in other countries, they tried to run these types of things, like in, I think, France, and they found themselves up against resistance. So a lot of these people, they're thinking they can push these agendas, and they're going to find out the hard way. They don't have the support like they think they do, and the schemes that they're planning may blow up in their face in the most spectacular fashion.
I would have to agree with you on that point, my brother. And having said all of that, you guys can subscribe to Shawn's channel, Shawn James, on YouTube. You can also buy his books, including the John Haynes series. He's a great author, by the way, Pastor. You might want to check out some of his books that he has.
I did write that name down, and that the Biden swerve, I think he said. I would have found it, but I plan on reading.
Now, is that your book, Shawn, or Biden Swerve?
Oh, Biden Swerve was a video, but I've written books like Eternal Night and The Man Crisis, and I can show you.
That's a great book. Yeah,
I've written books like Eternal Night and The Man Crisis, and I have other books that I've done, like John Haynes, The Man with Nothing to Lose, which is right here, And I've done other African American fantasy like ISIS, The Main Event, and East Team, Blast from the Past. So all those books are available on Amazon.com in paperback, and they're also available in Kindle format. You can also find them on Smashwords, the iBookstore, and Google Play.
Okay, appreciate that.
Yes. All right. So Pastor Childress, of course, he can check out his website, blackgenocide.org. Pastor Childress has been openly involved in the pro-life movement. I should say, I wouldn't say anti-abortion, because when you say anti, that denotes negative. And that's how they used to classify it even in the 90s. It was pro-choice versus anti-abortion. Now it's pro-choice versus pro-life, which has taken place. And certainly, yes, and Black Mama, thank you, honey, for being here. She says, I bought Eternite from Amazon the other day for my daughter in college. So, Shawn, you're getting some support from me, man.
Oh, thank you. I'm grateful for it. I'm grateful for it.
Yeah.
Yes,
I have a book that's going to be coming out. I won't say soon, but I'm trying to get it out for this year. So it's just a matter of finalizing stuff. But most definitely. Well, gentlemen, I thank you all for joining me. I know it's getting late, so I'll leave it at that. But to all of my fellow subscribers, if you want to support me, you can please donate to my Cash App, Gavin Richard Esquire. You can also donate to the gavin.grich1@gmail.com. That's Google Pay. You all see it at the bottom in the ticker. We have some people that are just tuning in. You guys, we had over a good crowd that came in to watch. I was very excited to see that. And I thank all of you for listening and tuning in. And thank you to my guest again, Shawn James and Reverend Clenard Childress. They will be back again sometime in the future. Everybody, like I say right now, Mr. James, I didn't know you were on this app. I guess you didn't know that Shawn was on this live stream. Yeah, I'm live streaming on Periscope on at Gavin Rich 2786. I'm doing this from YouTube, GBoo 2786, and my self-entitled YouTube page, Gavin Rich, which nobody visits. But hopefully more people will visit and come. And I thank you all, gentlemen, for joining me.
All right. God bless now. God bless you, Shawn. And I'm going to read two. Man Crisis, at least, at the Biden swerve. I'm going to see that one. Okay. All right, man.
Guys, you all have a good night. Be safe. Be blessed.
Oh, yeah. And the Eternal Night. I'm going to grab that one off.
Eternal Night.
You guys have a great evening.
Crisis. And also, please, if you have not already, and if you could learn more about what's going on in this country, learn more about exercising your rights, especially your Second Amendment rights. Pray that you never have to use a firearm or anything like that. But it's better to have one and not need it, and need it and not have it, in my opinion. Yeah. So, be safe, guys. Thank you, Shawn.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Black Mama. And this has been another edition of Gavin Richard Presents, only on YouTube, channel GBoo 2786, and other platforms. You will see me again in the future. God willing, say the same. I'll holla. Peace.